Emily. I want you to divorce me. I see. Regardless of the reason, I can't live with someone who cheated on me. Let's divorce right away. I'm sorry for hurting you. But thank you for understanding. We'll both be happy. As Todd and Cameron were about to leave, Cameron approached me and whispered in my ear. From now on, I'm going to have so much luxury. I'm sorry I stole Todd from you, right? With that, Cameron gave me a triumphant look and walked out arm in arm with Todd. After finishing all the paperwork, Cameron stretched widely and spoke to me. Finally done. Well, it had to be done for me to be happy with Todd. Good luck with your poor life, Emily. With a victorious expression, Cameron looked down on me and laughed. As I stayed silent, Todd joined the conversation with a puzzled look. Cameron, why do you think Emily would become poor just because we're getting divorced? What? Because Emily divorced you, a highly salaried man, so she'll lose her income as a homemaker, right? Hearing Cameron's words, Todd burst out laughing. What are you talking about? We'll be the ones living a poor life. My name is Emily Moon. I'm married and work full-time. My job was very demanding, and I was often away from home. My husband, Todd, supported me in everything. Todd took care of all the household chores in our place. In other words, he was a homemaker. We had only been married for 3 months. Despite being newlyweds, I was away from home a lot and couldn't help with the housework. But Todd never complained and always took care of me when I was exhausted from work. We had built a harmonious marriage, but little did I know that the arrival of one person would drastically change this situation. One day, Todd spoke to me as I got home. Can I invite an old friend over? Sounds nice, Todd, but that's quite rare you would invite anyone here. The other day, we hadn't seen each other in a while. We had such a great time that we decided to meet again. I also wanted to introduce her to you. Todd explained with a big smile. Seeing his face, I couldn't help but smile as well. Got it, thanks. I might have some time off next weekend, so can you ask that friend of yours if available? Sure. Thanks, Emily. Looking happy, Todd immediately started texting on his phone. I've rarely seen Todd angry or in a bad mood. I love his kind, honest personality and his cheerful smile. Todd's old friend, Cameron, was available next weekend and planned to visit. Todd was so fond of his old friend. Must be a wonderful person. I was looking forward to meeting Cameron. The next weekend. That was the day Cameron would visit our home. Todd had been cooking various dishes since morning to welcome his old friend. Todd is very skilled at housework, especially cooking. The table was filled with delicious-looking dishes. I'm sure Cameron would be pleased. Oh, Cameron is almost here. I'm going to go downstairs. With that, Todd went out to meet Cameron. We live in a high-rise apartment with a concierge at the entrance. First-time visitors often get confused, so we always go out to meet our guests. I wondered what his old friend was like. As I eagerly awaited their arrival, I heard the front door open. Come on in. Thanks for having me. Hearing their conversation, I was puzzled. The voice sounded too high-pitched to be a man's. When Cameron walked into the living room, I was surprised. Wow, this place is amazing. So luxurious. In front of me was a woman, looking around the room in awe. Todd, this woman. Let me introduce her to you. This is my childhood friend, Cameron. Cameron, this is my wife, Emily. Nice to meet you. I'm Cameron. Oh, nice to meet you too. I hurriedly returned the greeting. From Todd mentioning his childhood friend and the neutral name Cameron, I had assumed a man would be visiting. Todd could have mentioned it was a woman. Feeling a bit uneasy, Todd and I started to entertain Cameron. When I led Cameron to the dining room table to eat, she sat next to Todd like a natural. Wasn't it normally me and Todd sitting next to each other? I thought so, but Todd didn't seem to mind at all. It wasn't a formal setting, so I didn't comment, but Cameron scooted her chair even closer to Todd. Still, this house is amazing. The furniture is so fancy, it's wonderful. Isn't it? We can live like this thanks to Emily. Really? So you two support each other? Cameron gazed up at Todd with an admiring look. She didn't look at me at all, and I just watched the two of them talking. I felt uncomfortable as I watched Cameron talk joyfully with the occasional intimate touch to Todd's body. While Todd seemed unbothered, it was clear Cameron didn't see Todd as just an old friend. When I kept quiet so as not to spoil the mood, Todd quickly turned to me and said, "She's funny, isn't she?" It was pure sincerity, not a dig at me. So I replied with a forced smile. "Yeah." Todd probably didn't notice my feelings. He genuinely thought I was enjoying myself. Then, for the first time, Cameron turned to me and said, "I'm having so much fun. Can I come over again?" Though her mouth was smiling, her eyes weren't. Seeing me give a non-committal response, Todd beamed and said, "I'm glad you two are getting along." From then on, Cameron started visiting our home multiple times a week. At first, she came on weekends when I was home, but soon her visits increased, and then she even came while I was at work. That day, too, I found Cameron's shoes at the entrance when I got home. Sighing, I walked into the living room. There, Todd and Cameron sat together on the couch, laughing happily. Cameron had her arm around Todd's. Even when she noticed me, she didn't pull away. Already tired, seeing this made me feel even more exhausted. "Hey, Emily." Noticing me coming home, Todd greeted me with a smile. Cameron didn't say anything to me, just a quick, "I'll be going now," and left. Cameron was here again? "Isn't she coming over a bit too much lately?" I asked, sighing. As Todd continued preparing the meal, he added, "That's right. But Cameron recently got divorced and moved back to her parents' home. Most of the people around her are either working or have families. So she's probably feeling pretty lonely. While I feel bad for her, I don't feel comfortable with you two meeting up when I'm not around. You two seem unusually close. I'd like it if you could limit your time together a bit." I was pretty sure that Todd didn't have any inappropriate intentions. He genuinely wanted to help his childhood friend who was in trouble. However, I did not like Cameron, who did not mind touching Todd's body intimately even in front of me. Or coming into a married man's house in the daytime. After hearing my request, Todd apologized to me and said he would see Cameron less often. Then, I had to trust his words. However, Cameron continued to visit our home. It seemed like she was targeting times when I was at work, as I never saw her. So how did I know Cameron was visiting? It was because Cameron had gone out of her way to fold the toilet paper in triplicate before leaving. Having visited our home many times, she should have known that neither I nor Todd would fold the paper. She was intentionally leaving traces of her presence. It was a clear provocation to me. Though the visits decreased, she still came over every week, so I once again expressed my discontent to Todd. I told her clearly. At that time, she said, "I understand," but when she cried and told me at the entrance that she was having a hard time and that she was sad, I couldn't turn her away. I couldn't blame Todd anymore for speaking apologetically and asked him to keep telling her to refrain from visiting anyway. Todd would apologize each time, but the situation never improved. About a month after Cameron's first visit, Cameron continued to visit our home, and I was mentally exhausted. I was desperate to stop Cameron's visits. With that in mind, I headed to a place I normally wouldn't go alone. Todd's parents' house. If they were childhood friends, there might have been interactions between their families. I thought I might find a solution there. I rang the doorbell at my in-laws' house. Honestly, I wasn't looking forward to this. There was some reason I usually avoided this place. "Oh, Emily. Are you here alone?" "Hello, it's been a while." My mother-in-law's face showed clear displeasure when she saw I was alone. The reason was her. She disliked me. "So? Why are you here all of a sudden?" "There's no particular reason. I just thought I'd drop by since it's been a while. I'm not happy to see you. If you came with Todd, I could tolerate it, but spending time with you alone is a waste." Her blatant rudeness was rather bracing. If I retorted, it would only make things worse. It's best to smile and deflect. "You're such an unappealing daughter-in-law. If we had a daughter-in-law like Cameron, we could have built a better relationship." I was surprised to hear Cameron's name from my mother-in-law. If I didn't bring it up carefully, she might get suspicious, so it was lucky she mentioned it first. My mother-in-law continued talking without caring about me. Todd and Cameron were always close. She used to say she would marry Todd. And now he's married to a woman who can't even do housework properly or care for her family. It's really disappointing. I'm sorry, I have many shortcomings. Without making excuses, I apologized. Yet my mother-in-law ignored my words and kept complaining, repeatedly saying Todd should have married Cameron. If Todd and Cameron ever did get married, my mother-in-law would probably be overjoyed. With such thoughts in mind, I listened absent-mindedly to her nagging. About 2 months had passed since Cameron first visited our home. Cameron's visits continued. By the time I had stopped feeling anything when I saw the folded toilet paper, Todd approached me with a serious look. "Emily, I need to talk to you about something important." Todd, who was always smiling, now spoke to me with a grave expression. This unusual atmosphere made me nervous. "Sure, what is it? Are you free this weekend? I'd like to have a serious conversation." "Yes, I'm free, but can't we talk now?" "No, it's better if we talk this weekend." With that, Todd left the living room. What could this important conversation be about? I thought we had a good relationship when we were together. Could it be about Cameron? I felt uneasy. Part of me wanted to get the conversation over with, while another part dreaded the weekend's arrival. The weekend came. My suspicions were confirmed. Cameron was there, looking as if she belonged. Todd began the conversation. "Emily, I want you to divorce me." I had somehow anticipated this. I had feared our marriage might fall apart. Still, I had hoped that Todd would choose me in the end. We hadn't even been married for 6 months, yet a single woman had swiftly brought us to divorce. I felt dizzy, like I'd been struck on the head. I like being relied on. When you entrusted me with the housework because you were busy with work, I felt needed. I felt like I was supporting you. I had felt the same way. I believed we could break free from traditional gender roles and support each other through our strengths and passions. I thought we could do that together. But Cameron can't do anything. She can't live without me. I need to support her. Todd must have really thought so. He sincerely wanted to help someone in need. However, I wondered if it was right for him to leave his wife to help others. Looking at Cameron, she didn't seem remorseful despite her downcast gaze. Someone who truly felt sorry wouldn't sit back on the sofa with their legs crossed. She was likely reveling in finally taking Todd away from me. Todd's inability to notice these things might be a flaw. I found it ridiculous to be seriously troubled by this. Todd's nature would likely never change. Though he probably felt some guilt towards me, his actions stemmed from a genuine desire to help. Given his altruistic motivations, I doubted he could ever fully sever ties with Cameron, even if I refused the divorce now. It seemed easier to divorce now rather than deal with this problem for the rest of my life. I see. Regardless of the reason, I can't live with someone who cheated on me. Let's divorce right away. I'm sorry for hurting you. But thank you for understanding. We'll both be happy. As Todd and Cameron were about to leave, she approached me and whispered in my ear. "From now on, I'm going to have so much luxury. I'm sorry I stole Todd from you, right?" With that, Cameron gave me a triumphant look and walked out arm in arm with Todd. Though she clearly misunderstood the situation, I felt no obligation to correct her. For the divorce, I decided to hire a lawyer and negotiate a settlement. Since we didn't have children, we mainly needed to discuss the division of assets. On that day, Todd, Cameron, and I were supposed to meet at the lawyer's office to talk things through. Todd had declared he would mostly agree to my terms. Though Cameron voiced her displeasure, Todd silenced her by saying it was only right to compensate me for the hurt they had caused. I agreed to the division of assets Todd was entitled to and demanded alimony for the affair. Cameron looked dissatisfied at the mention of alimony, but her expression softened when Todd said he would pay for both of them. After finishing all the paperwork, Cameron stretched widely and spoke to me. Finally done. Well, it had to be done for me to be happy with Todd. Good luck with your poor life, Emily. With a victorious expression, Cameron looked down on me and laughed. As I stayed silent, Todd joined the conversation with a puzzled look. What are you talking about? Poor life, what's that supposed to mean? Because she divorced you, you know? She's going to have to live a poor life from now on. So I felt sorry for her. Cameron, why do you think Emily would become poor just because we're getting divorced? What? Because Emily divorced you, a highly salaried man, so she'll lose her income as a homemaker, right? Hearing Cameron's words, Todd fell silent for a moment. Then he burst out laughing. What are you talking about? We'll be the ones living a poor life. What? Cameron looked back and forth between Todd and me with wide eyes. I decided to stay out of the conversation. Holding his stomach, Todd tried to continue speaking. I told you Emily is the CEO, right? I never said I was the one working. You did say that, but I thought it was a joke. Was that true? Why would I lie about that? I'm the stay-at-home husband, and Emily was the one working. She's the CEO of the famous ABC Corp. Upon hearing the company name, Cameron turned sharply to look at me. ABC Corp. That ABC Corp? The one with the $1.5 billion revenue? You're kidding, right? Thank you for recognizing our company. Let me formally introduce myself, Emily, CEO of ABC Corp. I took out my business card and handed it to Cameron. Cameron, in a daze, slowly accepted the card. The company name was clearly printed on it. Cameron's hand trembled slightly. How? Why? Todd's mom said he was an elite high earner. This can't be. Hearing this, Todd looked surprised. I thought to myself that Cameron and my mother-in-law were conspiring together, but I remained silent, listening to their conversation. Why would Mom have that misunderstanding? Didn't Emily explain? Well, your mom said it's impossible for a woman to earn money. She also said women should do all the housework and that failing to fulfill a wife's duties is the worst. She said all sorts of things. That's ridiculous. Such outdated thinking. Sighing, Todd seemed exasperated by his mother's beliefs. But I chose Cameron over Emily. This proves I did it for love, not for money, right? Todd smiled at Cameron, who seemed too stunned to comprehend anything. Can we consider this discussion over? You agree to the terms, right? Yes, this wraps up everything. I feel bad for hurting you, Emily. We won't bother you again. Good. Please make sure to tell the woman next to you and your mother not to contact me anymore. Got it. We'll be leaving now. Todd supported the utterly dazed Cameron as they left the lawyer's office. Stealing a man for his money, only to find out he was a stay-at-home husband, was a shock for Cameron. It was highly doubtful they would have built a good relationship moving forward. However, this was no longer my concern. Finally freed from this mess, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. One day, having returned to single life and living freely despite my busy work schedule, my secretary Clara informed me that a woman was causing a scene at the entrance, demanding to see me. Apparently, she wasn't a business contact, and despite Clara trying to calm her down, she kept insisting on seeing President Moon. Having a bad feeling, I told Clara to take the woman to the reception room and asked her to be present. When I entered the room, as expected, there was Cameron, breathing heavily with a frantic expression. I regretted giving her my business card earlier. What do you want, showing up at my company like this? Don't you realize causing a scene at the entrance is disruptive? I didn't have your contact information, and when I tried to go to your house, the concierge stopped me at the entrance. I couldn't talk to you. So I had no choice but to come here. We finished everything during the settlement negotiations, didn't we? I never wanted to see you again. I didn't want to come here either. Cameron slammed her hand on the table. Clara looked displeased, but I signaled her to stay calm. Yes. I came to complain to you. Complain? That's right. You said you divided the assets, but what's with that amount? For a CEO of such a big company, you're being stingy. Cameron ranted rapidly. looking very desperate. I'm not being stingy. The amount is fair. Liar. It's true. I doubted she would back down easily. Annoyed, I decided to explain the situation. First of all, my marriage to Todd lasted only 6 months. I divided my income during that period equally. After that, the alimony for you and Todd was paid out, so it's natural that the final amount was less. Upon hearing the mention of alimony, Carol's eyes widened. Todd had paid the alimony for both of them. Realizing why a significant amount of money had disappeared, she looked frustrated. Still, why can't we live in that luxury apartment? The house and furniture are shared marital assets, aren't they? It's unfair for you to keep everything to yourself. As Cameron continued to argue, I grew tired of dealing with her. I lowered my gaze and explained calmly. I remember you looking around the house the first time you visited. If the apartment and furniture had been purchased after we got married, you'd be right about them being shared assets. What do you mean? The apartment and all the furniture were things I bought while I was single. So, they're entirely mine. There's no chance you could live there. Presented with the stark reality, Cameron couldn't hide her shock. She muttered in a faint voice. I thought that by marrying Todd, I'd get all the wealth, the luxury apartment, the fancy furniture. Tough luck. But hey, you got a kind husband who's great at housework. Be satisfied with that. That's the problem too. Cameron snapped back to reality and raised her voice. What do you mean? Todd wants me to work. He says, I'm better suited to being a stay-at-home husband. So you should go out and earn the money. I married him thinking I'd live comfortably without having to work. If one spouse was a stay-at-home partner, the other working was only natural. Cameron had her issues, but in this regard, Todd was not without fault either. He could only be a stay-at-home husband because I preferred to work outside. For someone like me, who enjoys working, Todd was an ideal partner because he took care of the housework. I've never worked properly, always lived at home. Now I'm juggling part-time jobs, but I can't get a stable income. Todd doesn't get mad. But he says things like, with my skills, I can make cheap meals, so let's save money together. His positivity is driving me nuts. Yeah, he can be a bit much. I responded. Todd's positivity was one of his strengths, but he could also be a bit airhead and irritating at times. He even says things like, even if we have to live a poor life, as long as we're together, it's fine. I have the cooking skills to make you feel good every day. I was feeling pretty good thinking you'd struggle with a poor life. If I knew it would turn out like this, I wouldn't have married Todd. I don't want him anymore, you can have him back. It was clear her frustration stemmed from not getting the luxurious life she envisioned. She was now forced into a poor lifestyle with a kind but unambitious husband. She was getting her comeuppance for thinking only of herself. Even though it was all her fault, she couldn't help but take it out on me. But none of this mattered to me. I don't care about your feelings, and I don't want a man who cheated on me, regardless of the reason. Is that all you have to say? If so, please leave. As I spoke, Clara called security without waiting for Cameron's response and had her escorted out. I could hear her yelling in the hallway, but the sound gradually faded away. Feeling relieved as Clara instructed the security to turn Cameron away if she ever showed up again, I sighed deeply. I was done with all this drama. One day, while I was peacefully working, free from Cameron's harassment, I decided to leave the office without doing overtime for once. As I stepped out, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. I was too shocked to scream and turned to see my mother-in-law, her face contorted with anger. Finally, I've caught you. I've been waiting for hours, and you never came out. How could you turn away your mother-in-law from the house? What kind of nerve do you have? Now it was my mother-in-law causing trouble. I had forgotten about her. The thought of her waiting outside for hours sent a shiver down my spine. Hiding my fear, I responded firmly. Todd and I got divorced, so we're no longer related. There's no reason to let unrelated people into my home. I've instructed the building to only allow people I've approved into the entrance. You're so insolent. Show some respect for your elders. She screeched, her voice a piercing sound I had never heard before. It was incredibly annoying. I would if there was anything respectable about you. But there's not. So, what do you want? Don't be disgraceful. I came because I have something to say to you. Nobody asked you to. I wanted to run away from her right then, but that might just lead to more stalking. I decided to hear her out and end things for good today. Why didn't you tell me Todd wasn't working? Your deceit has caused me so much trouble. I told you many times that I worked while Todd took care of the house. You always called me a liar or ignored me. Her misunderstanding was her own fault, yet she blamed me for everything. You should have tried harder to make me listen. I thought I'd live a luxurious life with Todd and his wife, but instead, we're living a miserable life every day. I can't take it anymore. So, you were after the money too. Just like Cameron, you thought you could live off someone else's wealth and now you're paying the price. Shut up. This is all your fault. You owe me living expenses for life. That's absurd. There's no way that would hold up. Besides, doesn't your husband still work? Even if Todd and Cameron can't support you, you should be able to manage. Her husband was still around, though he rarely came home from his long-term assignment. But we met a few times a year, and he was always kind to me. Though dealing with my mother-in-law was a pain, his presence made visiting bearable. Well, that's... She trailed off, her response hesitant. When he came back recently, he found out that I had married Todd to Cameron. He divorced me and kicked me out of the house. Now I live with Todd and Cameron. It was only natural her husband would be curious why his son's wife had changed. My mother-in-law must have spoken ill of me, making him uncomfortable. But I thought I'd live in luxury with Todd's money, so I boasted about it. Now I can't even ask my ex-husband for help. I'm amazed. My father-in-law was a kind and thoughtful man. If you had treated him well, he would have helped you. But now, you're reaping what you've sown. I won't help you. She looked down for a moment, but my refusal to help made her angry again. How cruel. What kind of heartless person are you? I'm begging you for help. Say what you want. If you keep this up, I'll call the police. This is my workplace, and your behavior is disruptive. Hearing the word police, my mother-in-law's face turned pale. She bit her lip in frustration but left without saying another word. Her shoulders slumped, and she looked like she was carrying the weight of despair on her back. Here's what I learned from my lawyer afterward. Apparently, Todd, Cameron, and my mother-in-law were still living together. Todd, who wanted to remain a stay-at-home husband, realized that Cameron and my mother-in-law couldn't earn enough to support the three of them. So he started job hunting. However, having been out of work for months without a valid reason like illness or caregiving, Todd could only find a low-paying job. In the end, Todd's salary wasn't enough to support them, so Cameron and my mother-in-law also took up part-time jobs to make ends meet. When Todd handled all the housework, their home was spotless, and they enjoyed home-cooked meals every day. Now, with everyone busy working, their house was a mess, they relied on convenience foods, and arguments were frequent. As for me, I was enjoying a comfortable life. I hired house cleaners to keep my home tidy, and I had plenty of delicious food from delivery services and dining out. Besides, it's not that I dislike cooking, I'm just too busy to do it. Occasionally, cooking for a change of pace isn't bad at all. I was savoring the freedom of living alone. In terms of work, I started a new business relationship with a company where my former father-in-law worked, and I met him again. Emily, I'm truly sorry. Because of my foolish ex-wife and son, you've been hurt. I can't apologize enough. My father-in-law apologized, but he had done nothing wrong. Please don't apologize. Although we are no longer family, I hope we can maintain a good relationship moving forward. Hearing this, my father-in-law smiled a bit and thanked me. For now, I was done with relationships. I decided to focus all my energy on my work.